What is going on, guys? Welcome to the Wednesday night live stream. Hopefully everyone's having a fabulous day today. Let me know if the background music is okay and not too loud. I'm trying to make it subtle. Hopefully everyone's having a fabulous Wednesday. Today we're just doing a bit of a random reef chat, so if you guys got any burning salty questions, fire them my way. Otherwise it's random rants or whatever rabbit hole we go down, but that's like half the live stream, so that one's fairly normal. Of course, I just heard the auto tester kick on right when I was hitting live. But yeah, so hopefully everyone's doing fabulous. If you guys watched my last video, I've been slowly working on this tank and it's kind of stripping stuff out of it. So this one, been slowly taking out rock and kind of cleaning it off and putting some PVC and some other stuff. I'm still figuring out what to do with all my coral in it. I'm somewhat on the fence if I reuse the coral or if I just do completely fresh. So color balance is a bit off. Yeah, probably. That happens. Kind of magenta. Yeah, too much effort to change it now. You're stuck with magenta me for now. It's kind of a mix of like the main lights and then the blue lights, and sometimes I put the tank white when I'm streaming so it doesn't mess with the color balance, but yeah, what can you do? How's the new tank coming? The new tank is still in the mail, so I'm still prepping. I just paid my overly priced customs brokerage bill on it today. So it means it's getting closer, so hopefully it will cross over the imaginary line in the next few days, and hopefully I'll have it soon, which means I gotta step things up on the transition to this tank. I'm 50-50 on if I reuse the coral temporarily or if I just start completely fresh. Part of me wants to start fresh and pick corals mainly that I don't have in the big tank, which I think would be a big win. It's only about 100 gallons, just a 4-foot tank, so pretty standard issue size. This current tank I can fit in it, so it's 6.5 feet or whatever it is, plus the overflow and the rest of it. So it's a modest 100-gallon-ish tank, just, you know, average reefer size tank, nothing super crazy. But I think that will be a lot better for my office. You know, as you can tell, it's not the biggest room in the world, and I jam-pack a bazillion things into it, so gotta work with what we got. But I am excited for it. I really do love the build of a new tank. It's one of my favorite processes, and I haven't built a new tank in a couple years now, minus the Nano, so I'm excited for that part. Geek Domo, just ordered a reef bot with your code. Sweet, happy to know the discount code still works. Thank you for the videos, not too many cover it. Appreciate the initial video plus follow-ups. You are most welcome. I'd start fresh and cherry pick what goes in. That's kind of what I'm feeling. I mean, I could very easily frag stuff. What's going on, Andrew? I could very easily frag stuff from my big tank and have a full insta tank, but then it's just another of what I already have. So part of me kind of wants to cherry pick a couple things out of it, but for the most part, start all fresh, which is new corals. You know, I kind of bring back that initial love of like the, you know, finding new corals and finding new stuff to go into the tank. So I kind of think, actually the thumbnail for this one is the Orange Passion. And man, that one, I love that coral. It's absolutely beautiful. So like that one I'll probably put in. And I have a Walt Disney and maybe like one other millie I might steal from a big tank. And I think the rest of it I'm just gonna go fresh. So I gotta figure out what to do with all the current corals in here. Like some of the hammers and stuff, maybe I'll put them in to get some initial life in there and whatnot, but we'll see. Lewis, I hate it because I hate having to do all the wiring again. You know what? I agree, but it's also a chance to organize it and clean it up. I've already been like brainstorming in my head. I'm like, okay, maybe I'll mount all the power supplies on the back of the cabinet so that none of them are inside the cabinet. It frees up that space. There's better airflow for it. It's all these little things. It's like every time you do a tank, you think of new things to kind of improve it and, you know, make it cleaner and better. And so that part, it's going to be a lot of work, but I'm excited for it to be like clean and organized again. As you know, over the years of having a reef tank, you know, every time you change something or move something, you know, eventually those wires turn into a little bit of a rat's nest, and you got to take that time and, you know, resort it. It's a big job. So at least starting fresh, you can make sure everything's like neat and organized and tidy and, you know, fulfill that little bit of a OCD part of it. So that will be good. Yeah, so it's all these little slowly planning things. I just got a bunch of test kits and stuff. On the big tank, what's going on, Bill? You definitely always turn into a rat's nest. Yes, so it's nice to clear the rat's nest and start fresh. Hello. I'm doing my new IM 150 Lagoon right now, and I love that I can improve so many things. Heck yes. Running 75 gallons sump in my basement. That's nice. Going through the floor. I'm being slow and methodical now. Yeah, it's... Once you've had a few tanks, I think it gives you that patience. When you first start in the hobby, you just get in there, right? You want life, you want good things to go. Then over time, you're like, okay, I've done that. It's not a big rush. I can take it slower. What's going on now? Dealing with the rat's nest right now. Yeah, 100%. And behind my pretty little cabinet is a rat's nest. So same thing. Completely got to redo mine. One on Reef here. Looking forward to the upgrades. Some really cool ideas for the new controller board. Yeah, that's another... Heck yeah. Now you're making me debate if I should redo my controller board. I have to see if it even fits inside the cabinet. That's going to be the first deciding factor. Reef Junkie. Yesterday, I had a 2 bicolor blendings eating normally at 8 a.m. One bit the dust in the tank at 1 p.m. The other 15 fish unaffected, still perfectly healthy. Any ideas? Wait, both of your blendings died in the same day? Yeah, something's off there. I have no idea what it was. Usually stuff that takes out fish is going to affect all the fish, not just blendings specifically. So I'm not sure on that one. Hopefully it's not, you know, like velvet or something nasty that's going to take out the rest. Fingers crossed that all the rest of you guys are good. Reefer Boy, currently dealing with a good amount of Heraldry, PO4, NO3 are low. What should a hobbyist do in this scenario? Optional rabbit hole, SPF growth is great in this state. Yeah, okay. So one consideration is your PO4 and NO3 might be like artificially low, because if your Heraldry is growing really fast, it could be soaking it up and kind of give you false readings to a certain extent. So it might be artificially low values, so that is something to consider. One of the biggest things is just manual removal. I am a big fan of using hydrogen peroxide. So you could put this in a little syringe or a big syringe. I actually just did it today because I had a bunch of little patches of algae in my Nano I wanted to kill. Don't know where my syringe is. But put it in a syringe, turn off your flow, and just spot treat the Heraldry. Leave your flow off for about 15-20 minutes so you can turn it back on, but that's going to start to kill off and weaken the algae. And you do that for a few days in a row and you'll see it just turn white and die, and you can just really easily pull it out. So that's one option. Another option is use something like a tuxedo urchin. Those guys are ferocious at Heraldry, natural predator. He'll eat it and clean it up right. Another really good method, if it's like really bad and you need the hammer approach, you could use something like fluconazole at a 2 to 3x dose, and that will basically melt it away after a couple weeks. So a few different levels of aggressiveness on how you want to battle it. Hamid, hi there. I have a Red Sea Reefer 170. I want to add Chaeto in the refugium, but I cannot because there's no place to add it. Well, that makes it tricky. You can, if you have space anywhere, sometimes you could just add your own little baffle. Something I did back in the day too is I used a media reactor, like a bigger one, and I wrapped LEDs around it and made my own Chaeto reactor. So that is an option. So you can put Chaeto in a reactor when you don't have the sump space. You could also look at something like a Heraldry reactor, Trish scrubber. And again, if you can mount that above your sump, that might be another option. So there's still a few different ways to add that macroalgae if that's the goal. Doing a massive water change to be safe. Hey, that's always a good measure. Okay, so Geek Moto, I've been using fluconazole. It was the right dose, it did nothing. I did 2 times this today. Yeah, I found 2 to 3x dose is what it took to wipe out Heraldry. But yeah, peroxide works very well as well. Again, just spot treat, and I just use 3%. Put it in a syringe, turn off the flow, spot treat it. After about 15 minutes, turn your flow back on. What's going on, Cash? Soggy Bearded Reefer. Anyone have any experience luck mixing blue powder with an Achilles tank? I have not tried that one. That does seem like a risky one, but might be doable. Lewis, Dev should come hang out in Greg's live in the mornings. I watch some of them when I'm up early enough. Maybe I'll join them one day. Phosphate L thoughts. Is Phosphate L just lanthanum chloride? Give me 1 second here. Okay, that's Julian's premise. Okay, so Phosphate L is lanthanum chloride. There is some by New Life, there's some by Brightwell, a bunch of different brands make it. There is a really cool calculator online that someone made. I feel like it was like Lewis or something like that. I don't know, Reef, but anyways, it can tell you the dosage to remove it. So with lanthanum chloride, you do want to dose it very, very slowly. So some people will dilute it in RDI and they'll drip it, or if you have something like a Versa, you can just tell it to do it extremely slow. Like when I use it, I'm like, okay, dose 5 or 10 mils over 12 hours, and it's like the teeniest, very slow drop. Now, when you do that, you do want to dose it either A, into your skimmer, or B, into a filter sock or a filter roller. So what it does is the lanthanum chloride will bind the phosphates and it'll basically turn like the little particulates in the water, and you do want mechanical filtration to remove that. If you don't do that, there is a risk on some fish of it getting to their gills or something, because they are more sensitive with the little teeny particles. So that's kind of the caution there. But aside from that, as long as you do it very slowly into mechanical filtration, then it can work very well. Ryan, moving soon. People don't say reuse sand, some say yes. Why? A little over here. Okay. Generally, people say don't use sand because the sand holds all the junk in the tank. I know BRS Ryan was always like, oh, it's a kitty litter. I mean, he's not really wrong. If you never vacuum your sand bed, you stick that tube in and you're going to see all the nasty coming out. You don't really want to move all that nasty into your tank. However, if you clean your sand very well prior, you're pretty safe to reuse it. If you think about it, all sand is technically used, right? It's not like we have new sand, it all comes from the ocean. So it's basically the junk in the sand that makes it an issue. And that's just all the fish poop and stuff that's built up over time. So if you want clean, sterile sand to reuse it, what I've done in the past is I put all my sand into a 5-gallon bucket and take a garden hose and push it to the very bottom and let it overflow and run. And all the small poop and particulates, everything is going to percolate up through the sand, and it kind of creates like that wet sand, quicksand type of look where you see it bubbling, and all the little things will overflow to thing. You leave your hose in there for like 20-30 minutes, go through a chunk of water, but it's going to be crystal clear after a while, and then your sand essentially is dead in new sand, and new in a sense. So that works. Now, if you want to maintain your bacteria, you don't want to use fresh water and kill it. So I would vacuum it very well up to the point of moving, and then suck it out, and keep it partially wet or partially damp, and pop it in the new tank, and you're going to maintain the majority of that bacteria. The other consideration is too, like on my tank that I'm moving, I am more or less killing off the rock because I want to rescape it and replay with it and have it out of the water for a while. But I'm going to probably reuse my live sand just because that is so much surface area in the live sand, so that I can use that to help cycle the tank. So that's kind of considerations to that one. Alexander, what's your opinion on the best ventilation for a fish room? 130 square foot in a room. I dose 7 gallons of calcium hydroxide per day to compensate for evaporation. Okay. Ideally, best case scenario, if you can get, very basic would be like take a bathroom vent fan and just, blow the humid air out. That's the easy, cheap level. Next level up would be using something like an air exchanger where it brings outside air in and exchanges it with like your humid air in the tank. Those are kind of two different levels of thinking about it. Keel Ovision, out of all the new water testers coming out, which ones do you think are solid if you had to choose your choice for what you're going for? It's hard to say about the ones that are not released yet because I haven't used them or played with them, so it's all speculative until they actually come out. Manufacturers can claim all the stuff they want, but until you have it in your hands, until you see how it actually works, like when you're looking at auto testers, like stuff that I consider, how cheap or expensive is a reagent, right? Like, maybe it's worth spending a little more up front if it's cheaper to run long term. What's the reagent shelf life? Does it last you a month? Does it last you 6 months? How many minimum maximum tests? So it kind of depends what you want to test and the frequency of tests. What's your ongoing cost? Like, there's a lot of things that you should consider when you're trying to pick. Noodle Reefer 170. You can't drill the ATO, plumb water into it, and let it overflow back into the sump. You can drill the ATO, plumb water into it, and let it overflow. Maybe? I'd have to look at the setup for it, but as long as it's not tempered, drill away. I actually just ordered just a 5-gallon acrylic one so I can drill it and set it up for my ATO for the new tank. Woody's gamertag, ReefDudes, can you think of a piece of advice that you confidently gave out when you're only a noob, only to realize you were wrong? Ooh, that's a good question. I'm sure I have some, but I have to almost go through the old videos to see what they were. I don't know. Good question. Let me ponder that one, but we'll circle back. How much shimming do you have to do to level your tank? Some tanks, none. I don't even bother doing any. Some tanks, you know, like the water box has adjustable feet and I can level it. The tank beside me is just on a steel stand. I didn't do any shimming. It just is what it is. You know, the one on my desk, I can obviously see it's tilted back a bit, but not so. Really depends. On a smaller tank, I don't think it really matters. On a bigger tank, it probably matters more. And a lot of it too is how, again, your tank needs to be flush to the stand. But if the whole thing's a little bit tilted, it's not the end of the world as long as it's not too extreme. But personally, I try and make it as level as I can. How to harden a silver ring? I don't know. Quench it? Heat it up and put it in water like hardens most steels? No idea if that would work on silver though. The calculator is pretty awesome. Yeah, I forget what it's called, but I actually looked at it the other day and it's pretty accurate. Lewis, I do want a Versa, but I wish Ecotech could do the Wi-Fi update for Mobius. I agree. Maybe one day. Geekmoto, the Limmaphos from Tropic Marine is pretty decent. I haven't tried that one. The only Lanthium I've actually tried is the Brightwell one, the Phosphate E, but I know tons of other ones, and honestly, they're all same, different concentrations, but pretty close. So pick your favorite brand and go for it. Follow the directions. With most of the stuff, you know, especially Lanthium, I do think it's better to go slow or use a lower dose and then work your way up just until you know your tank reacts to it. Keel Vision. I have a purple, a blue, and an Achilles, and a yellow tang to rehome. Wonder how they all did together. I'm curious. Noodle Reefer, can I ask, with you running ozone, welcome Jervis, how high of the RP will you be concerned? I'm constantly at 410. I have mine set to turn off around somewhere between 410 and 420. So I have it, if it hits that, then turn off my ozone. So that's kind of the highest that I let it go. What new tank are you thinking? Custom? No, it's a normal tank. It's not a common one. Haven't decided if I'm going to spill it or make you guys wait a week or two until I actually get it, but it's one that I haven't seen many videos on. It's like, it's a 4-foot tank, so it's like a commonish size, but it's just one that's just different than I normally see. You shall find out soon. I'm like trying to decide whether to use my old sand again or get fresh sand. If you're reusing your old sand and you want to be lazy, if you're reusing your old rock and want to be lazy and not clean your sand, then I get new sand. If you're not reusing your rock but need the bacteria, then it's good to use your old sand. Just clean it first, so you don't lose all the bacteria. So there's a few of those. It depends. I usually get new sand just because to be lazy and save the effort of cleaning it, but this time I'm using it because I have a bunch of fish that I don't have anywhere to put other than, like, you know, a temporary like big Rubbermaid container for a few weeks. And it's hard to keep them in that for a long time. Yes, I could, but so we're using the sand, the bottle bacteria, the Cyperax, all that stuff is kind of like bringing all that bacteria goodness in so that I can put the fish into the new tank relatively quickly and not have them living in a Rubbermaid container for too long. So it kind of depends on the situation. Technical reef keeping, what is shaken? A used trident worth it? Depends how old it is. I would depends on the price. If it's cheap enough, I would consider that you might have to service it. So the nice thing is, if you get it cheap enough and there's an issue with it, you could do the trident replacement program and basically get one that you know is 100% good. So I would just factor that into the price if you're buying a used one. You maybe got to spend the $75 US on a DIY kit to kind of like refresh it. You know, it might be fine, but worst case scenario, or the $150 and do that like exchange program thing and get it ongoing. So I would just keep that in mind, that that could be something that you have to do. If it's fresh off a tank working, you're probably fine, but if it was sitting for a while and there's potentially like stuff dried out in the lines, then you might have some issues. You can either deep clean it yourself or do the maintenance on it. Ryan, I'm pretty sure I'm going to vacuum a quarter of it this week, leading up and reuse it. I'm planning to do an upgrade and thought I might get new sand, do a 50-50. yeah, 100% that could work. I would just vacuum it really well, then you'll be fine. You just don't want to transfer. If you disturb your sand, you see this big black plume of, you know, fish poop that's built up in there, you probably don't want to put that in your new tank. So just clean out all the nastiness and then you're fine to use it. Or even, again, use a bit of a mix to help seed the new stuff. I wanted to wait for the Comore one, but they won't release a release date. Went with the ReefBot Lab. Solid. Yeah, the ReefBot Lab's actually been very solid for me. Yeah, same with the Comore one. It looks super cool, but you know, who knows when it's going to come out. I find a lot of companies tease and then they're not ready, and then it's like, okay, a year later we'll have something cool, maybe 2 years later. So that's why it's hard to like judge stuff until it's actually out and, you know, tested and people have used it. If Hannah were to release a new product, what would you be most excited about? Good question. Well, I have a Hannah high range nitrate kit in the mail. I haven't tried. My buddy lent me his low range kit. Holy crap, there's a lot of steps for this thing. I haven't even used it yet, but there's like a bazillion little vials and stuff on there. I was like, ooh, it's a lot of work to run this one. I like simple test kits. Like I know the calcium from Hannah, I found it to be kind of expensive for the refills and a bit of a pain in the butt. You know, I think the phosphate one's awesome. I think the magnesium one's awesome. So it depends. Do subscribe. Cheers. Welcome, Jervis. Appreciate it, buddy. Hit that like button. Thanks, Lee. Yeah, guys, if you enjoy it, you know, feed the Google algorithms, appease them, makes me happy too. Appreciate you guys hitting the like button. MCP shallow tank. No, I'm going for a deeper tank for one. So this is like completely different to my normal one. I figured if I'm only doing a 4-foot tank, then I would go for the deeper and have a little more like vertical real estate. I think it's like 20 or 22 inches high, something like that. Now the other thing to consider, yeah, Reefer Boy, I love the high range checker. That one actually looks easy. You just have powder, like the phosphate one looks super easy. Where the low range looks very convoluted with filters and, you know, multiple things you're putting in. I found the mag one inconsistent, high range, PO4 indication. Sweet. Well, glad to know I got the high range one in the mail. My nitrates, I learned, were far higher than I thought they were. So the last few days I've been doing a couple of bigger water changes just to knock them down again. Get stuff back to the happy. So, you know, when all else fails, you know, you're slacking on water changes. It's funny, I just set up the 4,000 mils per day with the dose QD. So that's doing a lot of water changes now. But again, to just put a big dent in it, I was like, all right, I'll bust out the brute. I got another brute sitting out there for tonight to do one more. How high? It was 75, I think. So I thought it was lower. I thought it was much lower. And I used the little like spinny tester thing at the LFS. And apparently his tester said they were 74. Don't know how accurate it is. I thought they were like 5 to 10. But apparently one of my auto testers, I need to recalibrate it. And I thought about it. I don't think I've ever replaced the hoses and the pump heads and all that jazz on it. So if I have a chance tonight, maintenance time. So that's the one thing I'd say. I've learned over the years that you get auto testers because one, it's just super convenient, and two, you get lazy and you're not testing enough. So I thought automation, but you still need to do manual spot checking once in a while. Because if you come to relying on the auto testers, you know, if they're out of calibration or something's off, you could, you know, stuff could be out of whack and you could be under this false interpretation of what your levels are, which is where I'm at. So I'm doing a couple bigger water change. By bigger, it's like 25 or 30 gallons, like whatever the 32-gallon brood is, almost filled. So doing a couple of those just to like reset things a little bit. But that's a reminder for me. If you have auto testers, you have to maintain them once in a while. You know, you need to replace those dosing tubes periodically and, you know, rerun the calibrations once in a while. So just food for thought. You know, you can't completely coast once you get the auto testers. And I just thought about it. I'm like, it's been far too long since I've done that. So lesson learned. I'm planning to build a DIY glass tank. Doesn't matter if the side panels are silicone to the top or bottom panels or the side panels. Every tank that I've had, the glass is sandwiched to the side of the bottom when it makes sense. So I would put it to the side because you got to think that pressure is pushing outwards on the glass, and if it's like this, then you have a bead here, so you have a bond around all three sides of the side of your tank. I feel like that is better and probably more surface area than that, because then the pressure is more directly on that seam, or around it is kind of more uniform. So personally, I would put it like bottom and then just do the primer around the bottom. Now the other thing with silicone in a glass tank too, you need to have a gap. You need space for the silicone. So make sure you know, I don't know if you use a little space or something, but make sure you have that, you know, 1/8 inch or 1/4 inch or whatever it is for a gap for the silicone to go in. Yeah, so that's kind of what I would definitely do with that one. Yeah, so everything sides all around to the bottom panel. And if you want it extra strong, you could always Euro brace it. The Euro brace, the top, I would put it inside. On top, I don't think that one matters much, but the bottom would have the most pressure. The other consideration is too, the taller the tank is, the more pressure, so the thicker the glass you'll need. What's going on, reef people? What's going on, aquaballs? I'm doing my testing right now. Excellent. One tank 5.3 and the other 10.4 for NO3. I thought I was at 5, not 75. So good on you for manual testing. I think Friday my high range checker shows up in the mail, so then I'll actually do some proper testing. Geek Domo was amazed. I didn't believe in it, so I watched the video and saw the high range one step. I love it. Yeah, I did the same thing today. I got these low range ones. I'm like, this looks convoluted, so I just like quickly YouTubed a video, and I was like, wait a minute, which one did I buy? And I checked, it was a high range. I'm like, sweet, looks so much easier than the low range. Just changed the water on my reef. Nice. I'm gonna do one more water change tonight. The Brute's full. It's full and waiting for me for later. Okay, so Martin, so say I bought the Poseidon 200 ozone generator for my 5-foot water box. And I have no way to monitor it on the tank. I have it set the number 2 for 10 to 15 minutes a night. Medium stocked with fish coral. 10 to 15 minutes, you're probably pretty safe. Assuming this is a brand new thing with ozone, you should, when you look at it the next day, you should know if it's doing something. You could give it a couple days, but you should see a pretty big difference in clarity. Maybe not front to back, but looking down the 5-foot length of the tank. Like when ozone is doing its job, it is crystal clear. Like your fish look like they're, if your glass is clean, the fish are almost floating. It is absolutely amazing for clarity. Now you could probably run it a bit longer, but again, start low, and if it's doing the job, leave it. If it's not doing the job, then okay, maybe you run it a little longer or a little higher. It's kind of different looks on it. But yeah, if you can see a big difference, man, you're a perfect Martin. All right. Am I going to get new auto tensors? The ME, the Maven, the Kimura? I do not know yet. Time will tell. The ME, which one's the ME? Oh, probably the Maven. The Kimura looks pretty cool. Again, it's not up for Brazilian years. The Maven also looks pretty cool. Again, it's not out for a while, so it's hard to say. Mastertronic Essentials. I mean, that also looks pretty cool. I'd have the other Mastertronic, so I mean, there's a good chance. Might be a fun one to try on the new tank. I think it's, I don't know if it's smaller. One cool thing is it doesn't use the needles and all the stuff, like, so there's less moving parts. I think it uses like an optical sensor to see, like, count the drops, which is kind of cool. The price on the Maven, I feel like it was like $1,100 or something. Let me check. I did see it. The price might be gone. Reef supplies in Canada is 1,600 Canadian. So what's that in 1,600 Canadian to USD? So that is 1168 US, so 11 to 1,200 bucks. That's the theoretical price. Could be wrong, could be right. Who knows? Are you prepared to admit live that Dr. Pepper is #1? Dr. Pepper is good. I haven't had that in like years. I've almost forgot about Dr. Pepper. It's so long. But Dr. Pepper is tasty. I don't know if it's #1. I'll have to try some again, just for you. But it is good. I used to love that when I was younger. We're on Space Kitty today. Well, I'm in Canada and excited that you said 1,100. Yeah, sorry. 1,600 Canadian, which is like 11 something US. I always try and say both just because, you know, it's probably like 80% US to 20% Canadian on the view ship. Have you tried Reef Factory equipment? Yes, I have. I have their KH tester and the TDS meters, which are both super cool. The TDS meters I freaking love because they'll alert you if you have an RODI unit in like a laundry room or somewhere where you don't see it or touch it as often. You might not, and it's automated. So like mine automatically refills the bin. And when it does that, I don't always see the TDS. So the Reef Factory TDS will alert you in the app when it's over a certain threshold. So if it goes above 1, the app annoys me and I'm like, okay, it's time to change my DI. And I think that is super cool. So I do really appreciate that one. Really cool. They also have the auto tester for elk, and it is extremely quiet. It's the quietest elk tester I've ever used, which I think is freaking phenomenal. And it's tiny, so it's good for a small tank. I've almost debated putting on my Nano. I still might. I've been trying really hard to keep it low tech-ish just because, but yeah. So, but yeah, it worked very well. The only minor weird problem I had is over time, I got a bit of like a bacteria film on the pH probe, which was messing with the reading a little bit. So I quickly wiped it off with like a toothbrush or a paper towel or something, and it was good to go again. So there's that 30 seconds of maintenance every few months. But aside from that, it worked pretty well. Jacob Mills, I think I'll just run the Maven and the Trident NP. I have room in my sump. Yeah, so the Trident NP, again, nitrates phosphates. It's basically the same size as the original Trident, so you'd have that baby in there side by side. Jacob will find out on the nitrate soon, buddy. That's in the mail. Have you tried? So yeah, so that's my experience with Reef Factory. I haven't tried any of the other stuff yet, though. Jay, hey Dev, hope you're well. I am, thank you. Finally started dripping elk with the DDSTP after listening to you and Chris. Trying to figure out the drip rate. Any tips? Would you increase your dose at night? I get a 0.4 swing. On my tank, I drip kelk only at nighttime. So I basically looked at my pH graph and see when it started to go down and when it started to go up, and I picked that 12 to 14 hour period, and that's when I dripped mine. Now I'm using a Hilk reactor, so it's just pushing RDI through the reactor, which then drips into the tank. The Chris method is more just mix a big batch, and I'm pretty sure he just drips it 24/7 until it runs out, and then just picks up a new batch. So different ways of looking at it. I do it more to combat the dip, where the other way is just trying to elevate the whole swings overall in general. Martin, dang it. Are you dang itting because that was Canadian US pricing? I know. Yeah, the other interesting thing with Reef Factory is they have that other like standalone tester where you can buy different cartridges to test different things, which is a cool concept. But I think it's kind of expensive for just one item each. So it kind of depends, but it was kind of a cool idea. Just order a dosing pump for the Pro X4 from Reef Factory. What are your thoughts? I haven't used it, but I'm sure it will do the job just fine. All the other stuff from them I've used has worked well, so I think you're pretty safe there. Dr. Pepper has a pH of 2.9. I've never tested pH of a drink or a pop, but now you have me curious. That's very low pH. Interesting. But yeah, you have to let me know how you like it, Josh. I'm always curious. On the Maven NNT. It's funny that you're saying Jacob. I might run the Maven and the MP. So the cool thing about multiple testers is you can kind of use them to keep each other honest. But when they don't agree on the value, then you're like, okay, who's right? And then you have to go manual test or do something else to get, a third opinion and see which one's the right one and figure out which one needs calibration and love. So that's the other thing. But I really appreciate your live streams. Very kind of you. Happy to help. It's good to know you're enjoying them. Appreciate it. So yeah, but on that note, any other kind of reefing questions or stuff you guys want me to dig into, let me know. Absolutely. Do you run kelk for your ATO to the kelk reactor, or do you have a separate container? I like to run kelk in a separate container. If you put kelk into your ATO, that is the cheap, easy way to start. It is harder on your ATO pump though, so you will have to clean it or replace that more frequently if you do that method. The only, I guess, slight downside is it's not consistent. So if it's really hot one day or your evaporation changes, it's going to give you a different amount of dosing. The other consideration is if you sell a frag or you do water change, if you turn your ATO off, it could dump a whole lot of kelp into your tank. So you got to be cognizant of that, so you don't accidentally dose way more than you should to your tank. That's the only other kind of little bit of consideration for the ATO method. But it's a cheap, easy way to do it, so lots of people go that method. Martin, so I started with a kelp reactor and thought it would take me a long way, but with spring, I'm already tapped with that evaporation. Yeah, so that's the other consideration, right? You can only dose as much as you evaporate. You can try, if you're already maxing out your kelp, then you need to start looking at other dosing. Like a new tank, a young tank, low coral load, you're set. But once you hit that saturation point where you're just going to be messing with your salinity if you dose more than that. So like on my tank, I dose on top of my kelp reactor. It's just, in my mind, like it alleviates some of the dosing, and it's a way of boosting the pH more at nighttime. Josh, will do. Never heard of ammonia bicarb. And one for trace, just went back to a 4 rack so I can get all in the same app. Other than that, using versus running the kelp. Nice. Are you going to review a Trident MP? Yes I will. I might be beta testing one right now. But yeah, I can't really, I don't know. I think until the beta test is over, can't fully show that baby off yet. But yeah, I know eventually I'll do a review on it once I've had it running for a couple months and I give it a proper review. So you will get a future one. I use Red Sea Reefer skimmer and want to start ozone. Are they ozone compatible? I do not know on the Red Sea skimmers. I would just contact them and ask. There is, cast acrylic and extruded acrylic. One of them is nice with ozone, other one is not nice. So just make sure whatever skimmer you're using is. Like I know some skimmers will have a kit. I remember I was looking a while ago at the Max Spec Duo, and they have this kit you can buy for 20 or 30 bucks to basically just replace the non-ozone safe parts in their skimmer, which was just some tubing and some fittings and whatnot. But Red Sea, I don't know, because I have not personally used that skimmer. Martin, just started dosing Alpha Reef as well. I mean, I don't know, Alpha Reef is cool. I just bought another. I'm still in my first tub, but I just bought another one. I think on the new tank, I'm going to try that when I start it out. Just simple, easy, one dosing. I'm using it now on my Nano, it's working well, so I'm going to try it again on the bigger tank and see how far it takes me until it gets overly expensive, and then I'll reassess. But I think it's a good way to go. Now I'm chasing Alpha Reef up to 76 mils of Alpha Reef and 5 liters of kelp. Yep. The cool thing is it's your trace elements too. I do like that factor. It's just so simple. It's like a cool product. Triggerfish 45. I ran 2 1/4-inch lines from my house to the garage, up the walls, behind the bank. One for RDI and one for kelp. Sweet. It's nice when you could do that. Martin seems every time I keep adding more, will it ever level out? It's always a battle, man. It's always a battle. Hard to say. Any ideas on how to remove tungsten from my water other than water changes? I have my water according to my ICP. Interesting. I don't know if I've ever noticed tungsten. You could use something like Purit that will remove metals. Certain macroalgae will remove metals, but again, that's a whole other thing. There's also those pads you can buy, polyfilter, and there is ones designed for metals. Again, that might remove it as well. That might be a simple solution, just throw it in your sump and let the water run through the polyfilter and suck it out. But it's also going to remove some of your other trace elements, so just keep that in mind. GFO apparently is really good at sucking out trace elements too, so I've heard. So that might be another thing that might suck it out along with other stuff. That was a selling feature for me. Oh, for leveling out all your stuff. Yeah, the simplicity really is nice. Okay, Lewis, I thought there was a max dose you can do for Alpha Reef. I thought it's not good for big tanks. I asked Lou that question when he was on my stream a couple months ago. And he gave a really good explanation, which I'm going to butcher and can't fully say. But essentially, I think that their issue was a slight imbalance over time, or you'd have to dose magnesium. There's something that would be a little bit off over time. I don't remember what it was. Rewatch the live stream. But essentially, if you have a big tank and you do water changes once in a while, it's not an issue. If you never do a water change and it's a really big tank, then eventually that might cause an issue. So it was only really an issue if you are in the I never do water change camp. Exact reasoning, you'll have to go back and watch my live stream with Lou. I'll try and get him on again in the next like month or so, and then we'll do some updated stuff and do a good Q&A with him. I just seen Aquaforest Components 1, 2, 3 Pro are on sale for $45 off. Nice. So the Pro version, it's almost like a higher concentration and it has higher pH. So I'd be all over the Pro stuff. I think it's cool. I've used it before. I liked it. Cheers. No, probably. Any ideas so why some of my red corals are turning green? I have a red wing millie that turned completely green. Okay. That possibly could be from elevated iron levels, because I know iron can make stuff turn green, but it's more likely to do with lighting and flow. If they're not receiving enough PAR, it might be turning green. I'm not saying for sure, but I have seen stuff do that on lower PAR levels, possibly. So I would look at that. If it's somewhere that you can move it, try moving it up a little bit and see how it affects the color. I haven't had red wing millie specifically, but I'm just going to quickly Google that one because I'm curious what it looks like. Red wing millie. Sweet. Looks nice and bright. Yeah, I would try giving it more light personally. How's the Walt Disney? Walt Disney's a weird one. It did not grow branches for a bazillion years. It literally just based it out, and it was on the edge of the rock and just started like basting out. It's like this own little floating platform, and it's slowly growing up. I broke a couple pieces off and I glued it to another rock in my water box just to have it more front and center, because right now it's kind of hidden in the corner, you don't even see it. But that's one that I'm definitely going to break off a chunk and put in the new tank. That one and whatever one's on the thumbnail for this video. But those ones I really love. Orange Passion. I love Orange Passion. It's just such a pretty one. John Wright. Got a laptop at last. Nice. Have you watched Boston Reefer with Dong and Rich Ross? What's your opinion of ICP and high phosphates being good? Okay. I don't think I've watched that specific one. I mean, I might have. I listened to the podcast randomly. So I'm down with higher phosphates, like as long as they're not too crazy. Like 2+, I'm going to lower them. If it's, 0.05 to 0.15, I'm perfectly happy. I find when your phosphates are a bit elevated, you get deeper, richer colors out of your corals. Now, there is a point in theory where if your phosphates are too high, it will inhibit growth of corals. Now, I know mine are super high and everything's growing fine. So, I question that. I don't think there's a big issue. So opinions on ICP test. Okay, so ICP test, I think they're a cool tool. If you're not dosing trace elements, I don't think I'd really worry about them as much. They're good to do periodically just to see what's happening in your tank, see if there's, something, contaminants or something in there that there shouldn't be. If all of a sudden you're like, oh, I have super high copper in my water, maybe you have a broken electrical cord and that copper is leaching into your tank, right? Or maybe you have a rusting magnet and you're seeing like high zinc or iron or something in your tank, right? That could be as a byproduct. So it can tell you stuff about your tank. So I think even if you don't use trace, it's good to do, once or twice a year, just as a bit of a snapshot of the tank. If you're dosing trace elements and stuff that you can't easily test for on your own, then I think it's a good check periodically to make sure you're not excessively overdosing or you're not completely deficient in something. Now, if you do regular water changes, honestly, you probably don't overly need to worry about it. If you ever do water changes, then I think it's more important. So there's a bunch of those, it depends. If you're going to spend $50 on an ICP test, or you're going to spend $50 on a bucket of salt and freaking replace all your water, your levels are good. So it really depends how you look at it. Aquaballs. I will never ever do water changes. Everyone I know have had great reef tanks. They all do water changes. Everyone I know. I will never ever not do water changes. Yeah. It's just such a big safety buffer. Like, I went for periods of not doing water changes. I went for periods with them. I'm back on the auto water change train again. I just find the tank can be perfectly fine without them, but things just seem a bit happier with them. So even if you don't do them regularly, every 3 or 4 months, just, do a decent one just to like refresh things. The way I look at it, you know, if there's people in your house using, you know, aerosols or spray cleaners or, you know, scented things, you know, that stuff can make it into your tank, and it is a contaminant, and a little bit might not be a big deal, but excessive amounts can be a big deal, right? Eventually these contaminants can build up to a point where it is an issue. It's like, you know, on some of the ICP tests, there's stuff like arsenic and different stuff. You know, a lot of these are tin, like a lot of these things for a little amount, not a big deal. Excessive amounts is bad. So that's why in my mind it's like just that little bit of a safety net. So periodically it's good to do. Anyone's else stream keep stopping? Hopefully not. Hopefully not, Haley. I have very fast internet, so I'm pretty sure it's not on my end. I have a gigabit up and down, so usually I'm pretty set on the streaming side. So hopefully it's not happening for anyone else, Haley. Every time I put it in my tank, it turns green and then slowly goes rainbow again. Some corals, if it's a new coral too, it could just be adapting, right? If you have vastly different, you know, PAR and light, vastly different water conditions, you know, the trace elements can make a difference. You know, the light and flow can make a difference. There's all these things. The coral might just be settling and readapting. What's your favorite LFS in the USA? Such a hard question. I don't know. Whenever I'm in Orlando, I usually go into all the bigger ones there because they always have so much cool stuff. There's so many nice ones out there. What's your thoughts on live phyto? I'm culturing / dosing. I can't tell if it's doing anything. Okay. If you're culturing, super cheap to dose, good on you. That's a great way to do it. I think it's beneficial for the tank. It will partially depend on what you're keeping in the tank, but stuff like clams or gorgonians or filter feeder, sponges, like there's tons of stuff in the tank that will absolutely love it. And if you think about it, phytoplankton is basically the base food of the ocean, right? It feeds your copepods. So again, it's going to help your copepod population explode. So there's lots of benefits to doing it. So I would say yes, there is benefits for sure. Well worth watching, you'll be surprised. I will look here. I'm going to copy and paste that so I remember to look it up later. Boom. All right, perfect. I will definitely give that one a listen later. But yeah, the other kind of consideration too, I know because this is referring, I'm assuming you're referring to the ICP chat, but ICP machines, like anything else, like any other tester, have to be calibrated. You know, how rigorous they are with their methods can all play into it. So if you are doing ICP tests, I would stick to one brand and not jump around between different brands because they're not all the same. They might not be calibrated perfectly the same, and you won't see the trends as much if you're jumping between different brands rather than just sticking to one that's consistent. So a few different ways to look at it. And there's also ICP, then the MS ones, like there's different levels and like mass spectrometers, and different ones can read different ranges on different things. So there's a lot of different levels to all of this. About to remove the sand bed tonight. Dinos won't go away. Ooh, that's a pain. Alex, dinos are a pain in the butt. Can't get the algae that traps the little bubbles in it. So it depends what type of dinos you had. Ideally, you want to have a microscope, put some underneath it, and figure out what type you have. You know, if it's photosynthetic kind, you know, it might be worth doing a blackout on your tank. If your stuff is matting stuff, I would almost just do a water change and suck out the mats, and then do a blackout. And, you know, some of them are affected by UV, some aren't. So you kind of need to know what type of dinos in order to properly beat it. So that's one of the big considerations. Nutrients are fine, by the way, just a smaller 50-gallon, and can't keep fish to each algae. Nutrients are fine does not work. What is fine? What does fine mean? Define those numbers. Can't keep fish to eat algae. If you want fish to eat algae, look at an urchin. One of my hands down best, you know, herald eaters is probably a tuxedo urchin. They stay small, they devour it, they're all over the place. I have 2 in this tank and I haven't had a tiny bit of it. When I first put a radion on the sump, because my sump's all white, and I didn't do anything for a while, I got tons of hair algae down there because I put an urchin down there. Within a week or 2, my sump looked pristine and perfect and spotless. Like, they're awesome. Just One note though, if you do have an acrylic tank, their little teeth can put little marks on it, so I mainly recommend them for people with glass tanks, so you don't have to worry about that. Culturing 2 gallons at a pop. I mix every morning and then I make my food at the base. Yeah, I did some videos actually like years ago on how to culture Fido. But yeah, usually it's like every 7 to 10 days you split your cultures and then I just pop some in the fridge. And just shake it up and dose it to your tank randomly. I was in Acapulco, Orlando in the park and they have an exhibit of a 5 million gallon saltwater. You can dive in it. It was amazing. Sounds really cool. Huh, I will have to check that out one day. Sounds really cool. Are you running a nano tank? Yes, I am. If so, what are your thoughts? I love how much micro inhabitants come to life in a smaller tank. Yeah, no, I love it too. I have the Hello Reef 14-ish cube/gallon tank, and mainly Ghanies in there and 2 clowns. Pom-pom crab, what else I got in there? Some sexy shrimp. Yeah, a lot of little creatures, so I kind of want to find more cool creatures too. But yeah, I like nanos just because you see stuff that you don't see in a big tank. Like half of these tiny creatures would be absolutely lost in seconds in a big tank. You know, I even got like a little fire shrimp. He's like that big, super cute. So it's fun. Jerome just got a tuxedo and it cleaned the back glass in less than a week. Yeah, tuxedos are amazing. Like they are phenomenal for that. Sparkly! Thank you for the 13.99 super chat. Much appreciated. I did high magnesium, cut the light by 25%, and ran UV and blew off the rocks every night just before the lights came on. Dinos are gone in 5 days. There you go. Good strategy, Martin. Thank you again, Sparkly. Much appreciated. Rogue, how you doing, Darren? Roller mat was working overtime. Oh yes, it definitely would be. What a great show. We met so many great reefers. Ah, that's awesome. Culture copepods and Fido for 2 years. Solid. Was about to lose my mind. It can be, if you have the space, it's not bad. If you don't have the space, then that's a lot of work to do it. Only way I got rid of dinos was dosing potassium nitrate. Yeah, so if your nutrients are 0, that could be causing the dinos. They like to have a certain level. So again, it might be the issue that you need to raise up those. I know when some of the dinos you can outcompete causing a diatom bloom by dosing silicates. So, but it doesn't work on all strains. That's why you kind of got to figure out which one it is. Where do you dose lanthanum chloride? Filter slocks, fleece roller, skimmer. I've heard different suggestions. Okay, so lanthanum chloride does bind to the phosphates in the water, and I don't know if it precipitates, but it creates little particles. So ideally you want it in a 5 micron or smaller filter sock. Perfect world. I dose mine where my overflow goes into before it flows into my filter roller, and then the skimmer chambers after that. So hopefully either the filter roller is picking it up or the skimmer is. I've also seen some people dosing into the skimmer, some where you actually drill a little hole in the top of the skimmer lid and drip it right into the bubble column and let it do its thing within the skimmer body. So there's a couple different ways you can do it. You could probably dose it just in front of the volute where it sucks it in. That could work as well. But yeah, a couple different ways. But the whole point is you want some form of mechanical filtration that can suck out those fine particles and remove it from your tank. Tuxedo's good to clean back well. Tuxedos will clean every surface in your tank. They are amazing. If you have a hair algae issue, like hands down, great way to go. 600 gallons filling out. One day I gotta come visit you and check out that tank, Darren. That sounds awesome. I've dosed bacteria and nitrate and dosed phosphate. Literally test nutrients every night and adjust. It's good dedication. You have to dose nitrate until you get a reading. I keep mine at 10 when I beat Dino. Yeah, you definitely need it. Now, I know some people that have to dose nitrate and phosphate, or they just bottom out. In other systems like my system, it's always a bit elevated because I have a ton of fish in there. So, I mean, feed more, feed more nori to your tank if you want to boost the phosphates. Could add more fish to the tank as well. Not saying you should do this while you have dinos, but as preventative if you are fighting these nutrients and they are constantly bottoming out. Literally test nutrients every night. hardcore, Alex. I've been doing that the last few days with my phosphate, because I've actually been dosing lanthanum the last few days as well to try and lower mine. So on mine, I have it phosphate E on a doser, and I set it to 10 mils a night over about 12 or 14 hours. So it's an extremely slow dosing right into the filter roller. Da-da-da. Have you found evaporation is higher in the summer or the winter? Right now I have higher temps outside, but humidity in the evaporation is 900 mils a day on a 75 liter. It depends on your humidity level. If usually in the winter it's a lot drier air, which can suck more moisture out of your tank. Now on the flip side, if it's really hot, yeah, I think it's more humidity than temperature, but they definitely both play into it. If you want to force evaporation, you can take some fans and blow air across your tank, and that will help promote evaporation. Have you played with culturing different strains of Fido? Apparently different species do different things. 100%. I did a video a couple years back with Tross from my Top Shelf Aquatics, and he did a very good explanation of the different phytos and what they're good for. Really good one to check out. I have tried, I mainly discultured Nano Cropolis, I think it's called. Nano when I did it. Now the funny thing is I actually started with a blend, and that was the one that took over, so I just stuck with that one. It seems to be relatively forgiving and easy to culture. I beat LCA dinos by dosing silicate and keeping nutrients up. Roller mat using 4 feet a day. Yeah, that's a good chunk. Note that they're all gone. It's like 1 foot a day. Yeah, again, it's probably blasting off all the rocks and everything else, and hope that helps. Thanks, Dev. You're most welcome, Jay. Again, guys, if you enjoyed this, be sure to hit that like button. Keep the YouTube gods happy. Alex, but the dinos will go away, and the red slime hair algae will replace it. You're probably right on that one. It can definitely be a bit of a battle. But you can beat it. I mean, I've dealt with it in 2 different systems now, and it's been a pain in the butt each time, but at the end of the day, you know, it's a bit of a battle, and you get past it, and then your tank's back to happy again, eventually. You know, I remember, like, 5-6 years ago, when no one knew what to do with dinos, and, you know, people, like, shut down a tank because they get overwhelmed with it, but now we have ways to beat it. But, you know, at the end of the day, like, it's find a buddy with a microscope or buy a cheap $40 one off Amazon and figure out what it is. There's a really good Facebook group called Max Dino Support Group. If you post photos in there, they'll even help you ID them and help guide you on it. I know I have one of the older guides posted in my Facebook group, in the ReefDudes Reef Chat group, which should be attached as one of the files that tells you different ways to beat the different strains of dinos. Top 3 favorite acropora right now. I like anything shaggy. Like, honestly, okay, my new tank that I'm gonna do, it's gonna be like shaggy polyps. Like, that's gonna be the theme. So it's probably gonna be very millie heavy because they're always super shaggy. But yeah, I just love anything shaggy. I just love the like movement of the sticks, and I don't know, that part's, to me, it's one of my favorites. As for which ones, I don't know. One of my favorite in my tank right now that I currently have is probably going to be the one on the thumbnail, to be honest, like the blue and the yellows. Totally mind blanking on the name right now, but yeah, anything shaggy, bright, multicolors, all over it. I've been struggling. Okay, Martin, I've been struggling with getting any phosphate readings. Nitrates at 6, imbalance. What is the cause? My dinos added 9 more fish. Cut the channel light source. Feed nori every day. And I'm still at 0. You could also try adding reefroids. That's pretty good at giving a bit of a phosphate boost. So that might be something else. Spot feed your coral with reefroids, and that will hopefully boost up your PO4 some more as well. You also got to look at, are you doing anything to remove phosphate? Probably not, but GFO and, you know, certain, like Chemi Pure Blue, for existence, has phosphate remover and carbon in there. So just make sure you're not doing anything sucking out the phosphates as well. Jay, different style of questions. What's your favorite LPS and SPS coral and why? LPS currently, probably Goniopora. I do love the Gonies. I do love like the color and the polyps, and they're super cool. I also like Duncans a lot. I think they're super cool. Fathead Dendro, it's kind of like a sun coral, but hardier. I have a single head in my tank that's been in there for a bazillion years, which I should spot feed more and try and get that to reproduce, but super cool corals. As for SPS again, I love the millies. I just love the shagginess of the polyps. That's always hard to beat my mind. The 58 in here, and not how. Hit that like button. You betcha, guys. Hit the like button. What's your favorite tenuous / biffia? I'll get back to you on that one. I'm going to probably be doing a bit of shopping through Adam at Frag Garage, his collection of stuff, so I'll do some hardcore looking and go through there and see what we get once the tank settles in. I'm probably going to put a couple just frags into it and just kind of testers, and then Milliapore only, right? I know, right? Totally. So we'll see. Anything fuzzy shaggy, it's hard to beat. Phosphate, yeah, again, there is those Orange Passion, thank you. I don't know why I was mind blanking on that one, but yeah, Orange Passion, love that one. It's colorful, there's bright polyps, the blue and the yellow just contrast so nicely. And that one is the photo that I quickly snapped just for the live stream today. Again, the quick phone photo doesn't do it justice, but like, it's just, it will focus. But yeah, it's just, yeah, it's a little overexposed. But yeah, it's just such a pretty coral. Like, just like the blueies, the greens, the yellows, like it's the multicolors and the shagginess. Beautiful. Haley, hitting the like button is like wiping your feet on the mat on the way in. It's manners. That's fair. I like it, Haley. That's the best analogy. Thank you. Someone broke off my frag off the rock, and now it's gone forever. You know, it's probably in the sandbed somewhere. I've had the same thing happen where I've glued one, a fish, something knocked it off and it disappeared, and it was like a nice frag too, so I was going through the sandbed and I found it. So you might be able to save it, depending on how long ago it was. My tenuous are doing better than my millies. Yeah, there is a lot of nice tenuous too. The 8 Reef Junkie, time to ask the age-old question again. Add coral first or fish first to a new tank? I would add coral first, personally. You are cycling a tank for the fish more than you are for the coral. Coral actually appreciate and will use some of that ammonia. They get some good stuff from it. The fish excrete the ammonia, and you're cycling a tank to be able to process the ammonia that the fish excrete to turn it into the nitrite, and then nitrate. So they're the ones that matter the most. Too much ammonia is toxic and burn the fish's gills. Where the coral, you know, small amounts, they're like, oh, thank you for the nutrients. They don't really care. Now, I gave this example before, but Jay, I think the YouTube guys like to see lots of chat. Does it help if we spam you? Spam away, buddy. Spam away. They love it. So, in the past, this is like many years ago, but I bought, I don't know if it was a green slime or whatever it was. I bought some coral that was too big to fit in my little like 15-gallon nano tank. So I put it in a 5-gallon bucket with a heater and a power head and an extra 15 above it, and it lived in there for a month. I gave it a water change every like 4 or 5 days, because just instead of dosing it, and it literally lived in a 5-gallon bucket for a month. So if that can survive in a 5-gallon bucket with nothing else, you know, coral's pretty darn good on its own without cycling. Now, as the caveat to that, I do find some macros don't really thrive in a tank until it's more established. And by established, that's kind of building up. It's probably more the bacteria and the biome of the tank. Where as a tank is more mature, you know, you can throw more frags and corals. If your parameters are stable, they're just going to survive and be fine. So putting in, you know, an anchor on a brand new tank, you know, it'll survive. Will it thrive? That's another question. But usually they're fine. Now that being said, I might even take a cutting in my Orange Passion and throw it in my tank from, you know, day one and see how it does. As long as my parameters are stable, you know, I don't see why I wouldn't make it, but it might be a good test. I might do it. Yeah, and coral also does add more bacteria, more diversity to your tank. So it is helping to build up that microbiome. So personally, I would throw in coral first and then just slowly add the fish. Where's all my spam, Jay? um, Great idea. Hotel was stunning. I don't know where you guys were, but it sounds fun. What's the oldest fish that you have? I still have my original clownfish from probably like 10, 11 years ago whenever I first started reefing. So that's probably the oldest fish that I've personally had. In my other tank, I have the Red Sea sailfin tang. Like he's an old boy. I know he was like 14 or 15 years old when I got him off a reefer that was shutting his tank down. So he's probably pushing, 15, 16, 17. I don't even know how old he is. So he's definitely an older geriatric fish in the tank. He's like a few little marks and stuff. Like he's definitely seen things in his life. But yeah, I still have my original clownfish though, so he's definitely the oldest that I've had the longest. What's the most you spent on a coral? I bought some fancy jawbreaker mushroom that I feel was like $200 US, maybe the 150. And brought it back from Lap, New York a few years ago. The funny thing is I don't even know if I have it anymore. I think the wind blew it off and it may or may not be living in the back of my tank under the rock somewhere. So that was up there. The other ones, I don't know. What else have I spent lots of money on? I don't know, probably $200. It was Love to Reef last weekend. That's what made me, John, and it's our Reefapaloozers. Nice. That's awesome, man. If you guys haven't went to shows, like they're always fun. It's such a great way to geek out with like-minded people. Hey Devin, everyone, what's going on? Phil? Good seeing the chat. Late again, but listening in the car. Another coral shipment dropped off. UPS, not complaining. Phil, you have so many nice tanks. You are just like a machine with coral. They're all beautiful too. I gotta get you on again one day. But that's sweet. Another good shipment, sharing the love with the people. Haley, you missed out. You're gonna have to go to the next show. It's good. Chris L, welcome to the channel. Good to have you. We had a talk with Jamie Craig too. Nice. You know what? Jamie Craig's would be a good one to get on the live stream. It'd be a fun one. I've been debating doing a bit of a coral spawning stream with him one day. My one coral spawned, which was kind of cool. I think I showed it at the end of the video. It was the Miyagi tort, which that one I've literally had since a tiny frag. And I think I originally had it in my Red Sea Nano, which was like 3 or 4 tanks ago. So many moons ago. And that one spawned in the tank, which is really cool. I did that one video. I came home and I saw my tank look like a snow globe, and I like asked my wife, I was like, did you feed the tank? She's like, nope. And I realized it was all little coral gametes, and it was just so super cool. So that was really neat to see. Now, I was chatting with Jamie briefly just in the comments afterwards, and he's like, oh, kind of how to collect him and do stuff afterwards, which I didn't, but it would be kind of something cool to try if it happens again. So he'd be a fun guest to get on one of these days. Alright guys, we're at about an hour, so I got a few more minutes, but not tons more. But yeah, if there's any questions or stuff you guys want me to dig into, any breeding reef questions, fire my way. Phyllis, the only thing I've never seen, but I would love to see my tanks. Yeah, it is super cool. That's the first time I've had an Acropora spawn. I've had rock flowers spawn. I've seen that happen, which was kind of cool. I mean, I've seen snails doing it, which is kind of funky. I laughed. There's a little clip I posted on Instagram like a year ago, but there's this snail that's sitting there and he's stretched up in the air, and it's his little freaking trunk, which looks like a little wand or something, and it looks like he's a little wizard smoking or something. It's freaking hilarious. But yeah, that was him spawning. But yeah, rock flowers for sure, and now the Miyagi tort was the other one. But yeah, those are the 2 I've seen. But yeah, it's really cool. It's super neat. So yeah, if there's I'm gonna see if I can find that clip of the snail because it was funny. Remind me of a little wizard. Yes, that was. See if that shows up. But yeah, there's like a little guy in there. He's just reaching up with all his little might, and he's spreading his love in the tank. But he's like a little wizard holding up a little smoke thing. Is freaking hilarious. I remember that video, funny. Yeah, it was a good one. I don't know, it just cracked me up when I walked by. I was like, what the heck are you doing? And I realized what it was. Haley, I have Fungia plate, and they often spawn in my tank. I don't know why. That's pretty sweet. Nice work, Haley. Yeah, so that's like a tried and true for the ReefDudes radio on the schedule now. Someone commented earlier, like, oh, I love the mix of blue and whites. And I was like, oh, thank you. But yeah, now it's tried and true. Corals will spawn under it, so ReefDudes radio on the schedule for the long term, tested now. Lee, what do you think of a new purple Scopus hybrid from Biota? Saw it last weekend. I have not seen it, so let me Google that. Ooh, that's cool looking. $5,000, jeez. I don't think I have anything set up to screen share quickly right now, but it's a cool looking fish. I could never justify $5,000 on a fish, but it looks really cool. Diamond Reefer. Hi Devin, the small blue star clove polyps are almost killing my SPS to take over my tank. Any suggestions except fish fabenzidol? Well, that was my main one, is the fabenzidol, because that does work on it. There was something else that worked. What was it? Fabenzidol was the main thing though, because it is a dewormer and it somehow works on those. But yeah, that hybrid tank's super cool looking, but crazy expensive. I remember Jimmy Pop Coulson, super cool tank that I don't know if he still lives there, but he used to live in Vegas and had a wake a tank. He told me that he had tuxedo urchins or some type of an urchin that actually ate them in his tank. I haven't heard that from anyone else, but so it is possible some urchins may eat it. I mean, the fabenzidol would be my main one. Now there is probably, what else would work on that? Yeah, it'd be some kind of a dewormer that you would need to kill it. There was something else, I can't remember what it was offhand though. I don't know if it was Interceptor or something else, but it was one of the like vet type medications that was focused on deworming. If you can't get the fabenzidol. There used to be one called fish benzidol that was sold to kill hydroids and stuff, which would also work if you can find it. I will get back to you if I can figure out what that was though. Yeah, not cheap, but they have one at AAC. Staff and I were shocked when I knew what it was. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Jay, hit that like button, buddy. Right. Hit the like. Couldn't you calc paste them? You probably could actually. It'd be a slower process, but you probably could do calc paste and just like smear it over there. Now again, that is going to spike your alk and your pH, so you can't, do your whole tank at once, but you can do small areas. And again, you might affect or kill or hurt the corals around it. But yeah, calc paste probably would work. Or you could probably glue over it. Yeah, right, Producer Reef? Jimmy, his tank was the craziest I've seen in person. I don't know if he still lives in Vegas or not, but the craziest thing, he had this 500 gallon-ish tank. I think it was, maybe it's more. I think it was 8 feet wide, 4 feet front to back, and maybe like 2 feet deep. Like, it was huge. And it was just like every fancy acro you can possibly think of was packed into that tank. Like everything, every nice coral was there. Like, it was such an amazing tank. Yeah, Florida. So I do, all his pictures now are tropical and not Vegas. So yeah, Florida wouldn't surprise me. I think he moved. But the other crazy thing is, I still have videos and pics. Yeah, it's a super cool tank. In one of the arcades, if you ever watched that show Tanked, there was like this big race car, or like the big oval race car track, like 20, 30 feet, whatever it was, inside of an arcade. Anyways, he bought that tank and put it in his house, and it wouldn't fit in his house. So it spanned like 3 or 4 rooms of his house. Like it's like in the guest room, in this room, in this. It was like the craziest thing ever. I was like, I wanted to see how that progressed long term. But yeah, super cool. I have to reach out to him one day. I haven't talked to him in ages. Yeah, so cool. But yeah, it was super crazy. John, I copied and pasted that, and I will give it a listen or a watch later, because you got me curious on that one. Secrets for getting Miliopora extension. Millies love lots of light. They also like good flow. So light and flow is obviously big ones. As long as the rest of your tank is fairly happy and stable, I mean, they tend to do well. The big caveat is make sure nothing's picking at them. If there's a fish or something, you know, picking at the polyps, they're going to suck in more and not be out as much. So a lot of the times when polyps aren't out, there's a good chance it is a pest or something's not stable in your tank. Another thing that I see a lot too is just not having enough flow. So just having proper flow is a big thing too. 72 watching with 33 likes. Oh my gosh, like 40 of you are slacking. Rumor is the best way to color up corals is hit that like button. That's the secret. You're on it, Jay. I like it. Like the love for the corals. But yeah, I find like a lot of people underestimate flow as a tank grows in. Like even now, like I know my water box could use more flow. And I'm stubborn and refuse to put them on the peninsula end. I just refuse to, but I know the tank would be happier if I did. That's partially why I added the little near orbit one on top of there, is just to get that kind of like sheet to kind of help wrap it around a bit more. But perfect world, I would have one on that side, but I just refuse to. I've been thinking though, which is funny because the tank beside me, I have 4 MP40s on the back and it's like 6.5 feet. Or the new tank's only gonna be 4 feet, but I'm gonna reuse those same 4 MP40s on the back wall going forward. And I'm still debating if I get another one and do one at the one side blowing across the front of the tank to even further up the flow, since it's going to be a very milli heavy tank. And then that pane will be kind of against the far wall, so you won't really see the power head, so I think it'll be okay. But those are kind of my potential thoughts for it. Manage, hey Devin, I'm dosing kelp based on Evaporation. Elk is off the charts. Do I let it go down or do I do water change? What do you recommend? So tricky. I personally don't like to let my elk get too crazy off the charts. However, if you're doing the Chris Meckley method, he doses more off pH and kind of ignores elk more, and he says it's fine. So it depends on your mentality. Lots of people have done it and they said it's fine. I personally, you know, if it's pushing 13 or higher, that gets a little too high for me. So yeah, that's the tricky bit. What's the cutest fish you have? The cutest? I don't know, clowns are pretty cute. Who's cute? I don't know, blennies are cute. Clowns are kind of fun. I like when they like nuzzle into stuff. In the past, yellow clown gobies, they're super cute. I don't know if they're the cutest, but personality-wise, hawkfish, I don't know if they're cute, but they're quirky. I find when I buy the tank, I have two flame hawks in my water box, and they'll come out there and they'll perch on a curl, and these big eyes are staring and be like, "What you doing?" And they'll like follow you around, and they're like, remind me of like some nosy neighbor that's always just like checking things out. So they have some cool personalities. Yeah, actually Midas Blenny, that's a good one. Midas Blennies are super cute and bubbly. I have one in this tank that's not quite out as much, but there's one I had years ago that was like the most bubbliest thing ever. It was always being like, "Hey, what's up? What's going on?" That was a really cool one. Boxfish are pretty cool. I've never personally had one, but they definitely do look cute. There's those little like coral munchers too, that look like little blobs with big eyes that kind of go on the bottom, like the little nano fish. They look kind of cute too. Reef Keeper, if your demand is not high enough to dose kelp based on evaporation, you can also cut back on how much kelp you're using. Agreed. Instead of 6 grams per gallon, reduce it to 2 or 3 grams per gallon. Yeah, no, dosing less is probably safer. I personally wouldn't want my elk, you know, up to 13, 14 higher. Like, you know, once mine hits 10, 11, I'm like, hey, it's time to start like cutting stuff back down again. I still try and keep it in that 8 to 9 range. It's more my happy spot. But sometimes I get up to closer to 10 and I just reduce my dosing a bit and let it drop back down. The little saddleback puffers are kind of cool too. Like the little mini Valentini puffers, like they say tiny, they're super curious. They're pretty cool ones too. Alright guys, 5:19. Okay, so I got about 10 more minutes and I got a cutter. So if there's any other questions that you guys really want answers to, let me know. Tailspot Gold Streak Blennies are cute until they decide there's a taste for the Wilsoni and the Scullies. That is tricky. Yeah, so Phil 10 to 11 start to worry. Yeah, I love the yellow clown goby until he started munching all my corals, and then he became less cute. And another thing too, my triggerfish, super cool fish. One day he started eating my big clam. Love the fish, not so happy with the clam. So fortunately my big, like, football-sized clam bit the dust. So I woke up one morning to fish all just picking at it, which I'm pretty sure the trigger was the main one, but who knows. Are there any fish you never against because they're mean? The meanest fish, well, to me personally, that I had was an azure damsel. And now I've had tons of them, and they're always very nice and the most passive damsel in the world, but I had one that was a bugger. And anytime I went within a foot of his rock, he would be picking at me and biting me, and he was just a punk. It was probably the nastiest one I've had. Now this is like mean to me. To other fish, I love yellow tangs, but again, sometimes they can be an ass. Like I've had one that just goes after all my new fish. Like when I had to introduce a copper band to this tank, I had to take craft mesh and literally separate the tank into two halves for about 4 or 5 days until they all chilled out, and then everyone was fine together. But he was just such a bugger to the new fish for a while. Dottyback neon. See, I have a dottyback in the tank beside me, a neon one, and he's been perfectly fine. Look at the purple one. So my experience, they've been fairly docile. Yeah, Phil, my damsel bites the crap out of me and my other fish don't. See, I've had like 4 or 5 azure damsels and they've all been peaceful except for one. There's only one that was a bugger. In this tank I have a chromis, he's pretty peaceful. I have I think it's called a Talbot's damsel, he's been peaceful. There's the purple dottyback, the neon dottyback, like the purple and gold yellow one. They've been pretty good together. Blennies are pretty cute and peaceful. I don't know, there's a lot, there's so many. My favorite fish are the Fu Manchu. Oh, those little like lionfish with little beards. Those guys are cool. Never kept one, but they're pretty cool. Springer dottyback again. Yeah, dottybacks can be really hit or miss. Like the problem is some of them have like beautiful colors, but they can be punks. But neon dottyback bites me all the time. On the fish note, that's the other thing I'm debating. Do I move all of the fish from my current tank into the new tank? So in here, I'm still debating this, if they all move in or not. Once again, thank you so much for doing these streams. You're most welcome, and thank you for hanging out with me for an hour every week. Appreciate it, John. Yeah, so like inside this tank, we have a yellow tang, white-tail bristletooth, aka Tamini tang, 2 clowns, Melanaris, yellow midas, a tail spot or a bicolor blenny. We got a Talbot's damsel, a purple dottyback, copper band, butterfly fish, and the Melanaris wrasse. I don't know if there's anyone else hiding that I can't see, but I'm debating if all those fish go into the new tank. Dream/wish list fish. I really like Leonardi wrasses, but they are expensive and I would never pay that much. Yeah, Leonardi wrasse, I think they're beautiful. They're like vibrant electric blue and yellow, super cool, but they're like $2,000 and I would never spend that on a fish because that's bananas. I'd spend $200 or $300 on a fish. I would not spend thousands. To me, that's crazy. So, and I think they're delicate, so it's hard to spend a bunch of money on something that's super delicate and you're just rolling the dice. Are you just transferring your rockscape, right? I am essentially killing my rockscape. So I had a little bit of a battle. Okay, I'll answer that one second. So a few months ago, I had a bunch of fermented snails in the tank and they drove me nuts because they poke your hands when you go in the rock. Put your hand in the tank and it was just annoying me. So I did the kelp powder, calcium carbonate powder, and I did that, which kind of chokes them out and essentially starves them. And I had a bunch of bumblebee snails who hunt them down. Between the two of them, that basically killed off the majority of them, if not all of them, probably a good chunk. However, they killed them, but the tubes are still there. So I decided, and there's a couple aptage in the tank, not too bad. I mean, the copper band eats most of them, but there's a couple little monsters. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to redo the scape. I'm going from a tank that's 14 inches tall to 22 inches tall. So I'm going to need more elevated rock structure. I'm like, I want to take my time, do a cool scape, and make something funky for the new tank. In which case, I'm probably going to kill off my rock while I do it. So I'm like, okay, if I'm going to kill off my rock anyways, I'm going to clean it. And so I've been slowly taking out rock and pressure washing it. So I've been going over the pressure washer and using that to basically break off all the tubes. Then any of the little hard pokey ones, I'll just take side cutters and snip them off afterwards. Now they've been outside for 4 or 5 days now. They've dried out. All the good bacteria can be dead. Maybe it's raining outside, so they're getting bathed in fresh water right now. But essentially, they're dead rock now. So it's starting fresh. So I'm going to be rescaping it, building some cool stuff. I ordered some reef cement and a few things that I'm going to try out on it, and just trying to make some new funky structures and then pre-cycle it in like a Rubbermaid container or something. I'll dump in some bottle bacteria, heater in a pump, let that live in there until my tank's ready. So I pre-cycled the rock. I'm probably going to reuse my live sand, as well as I bought some bottle bacteria. I also have some super racks that I threw inside my water box, something I'll add in. So it's like this little bacteria soup to make sure that I can put all the new fish into the tank right away, and there's a very minimal, if anything, press cycle. Ozone together with UV. Does it not needed? Thank you. You don't quote unquote need both. They do a lot of the same things, but they also have some slightly different things. You know, you're definitely getting that crystal clear water if you're running both. If you're using ozone or UV for water clarity, then you probably don't need ozone. Ozone primarily I use for water clarity. I'm sure there is other uses, but that's the main use. It will help break down organics and whatnot. UV will help give you clearer water. Ozone will help give you clearer water. I mean, UV, depending on your flow rate, it can help with parasites and other stuff. So it definitely doesn't hurt to run them both. If you're just doing it strictly for water clarity, if you're using an ozone generator, it only takes a couple watts of power, where UV takes like 75 or 100 watts or 50 watts, whatever it is. And if you're running that 24/7, that can add up. So I mean, it's a lot more efficient to use ozone if water clarity is your goal. But again, there's different purposes, but a lot of overlap. Kevin, any idea about the Trident NP reagents? What's your question on them, Kevin? What specifically? I know they... Yeah. Ask me what you want to know. What are you using currently? I have both UV and ozone on my water box. I haven't used my UV in a while, but my ozone runs nightly. Yeah, so I use ozone consistently for a couple hours a night. And then UV just periodically I'll use it. Alright guys, I think I hit all the questions up, and yeah, hopefully everyone enjoyed it. Think ozone can kill cyano? You can still get cyano if you have ozone, because it doesn't necessarily pass through your skimmer or whatever you're using as the ozone reactor. If you could choose balling, what would you go for? There's tons of good options out there. Stuff I've used that I really liked, like the Aqua Forest. I did use the Pro ones for a while. I really liked that. I really liked ESV because that was like 2 parts with all the traits. I thought that was pretty awesome. I mean, the 1 part idea of the Alpha Reef, I think is super cool. You know, there's tons of stuff out there, and honestly a lot of them are based off the other people's systems, so pick your favorite brand and go for it. At the end of the day, it's like, okay, some might be better higher purity, you know, some might be better boosting elk, you know, some include trace, like they're all gonna work. Yeah, those are the kind of the ones that I've liked and went for it. I've also went for the bulk stuff and just did the DIY route, so done bunch of different ones, but I've been really bad at mixing and mashing different systems all the time. I do think it is a good idea to stick to a certain system because you know all their products will work better with each other, which I haven't tried. Maybe I'll try that on the new tank, we'll see. But for the most part, I've, you know, mishmash stuff together and do my own concoctions. But yeah, just pick a brand you like and stick with it and you'll be successful. Again, you can mix and mash, but there's other considerations then because you don't always know if potencies match when you're mixing stuff. But Lee, great stream again, Devin. Thanks for hanging out. As John, thanks for giving your time and all you do for help the buddy. Yeah, thank you guys for hanging out today. I'm glad you guys enjoyed it and hung out for the last hour and a half. And yeah, again, as always, if you enjoyed it, hit the like button. You're new, make sure you subscribe. I do these live streams pretty much every Wednesday, so Same reef time, same reef week. See you guys next Wednesday. Have a good night, guys.